Have you ever looked back on a choice you made, a person you trusted, and just thought to yourself, what was I thinking? Yeah, we have all been there. Today, we're going to dig into the psychology of why we fall into that trap and how we can start trusting the one person who's always got our back, our own gut. So really, why do we trust the wrong people? Well, the good news is, it's not some kind of personal failing. It's actually a predictable glitch in our human operating system, a bug, if you will. And the best part is, once you know about it, you can learn to work around it. And here's the real tug-of-war happening inside our heads. On one side, we have the person we think we are, logical, in control, making smart, rational decisions. But then there's who science says we really are, predictably irrational creatures who have this really dangerous habit of ignoring the very survival signals designed to keep us safe. So let's kick things off by tearing down this idea we have about ourselves. Let's talk about the rationality myth, this flawed but totally pervasive belief that we're always driven by perfect reason. I mean, even Shakespeare bought into it. He captured this perfect, idealized vision of humans as these incredibly rational beings. And, this isn't just poetry. This idea is literally the foundation of classical economics and a lot of how we think our world works. The old school theory basically goes like this. When the stakes are high, especially when there's money on the line, we suddenly turn into these hyper-logical calculators. We weigh all the options, run the numbers, and pick the absolute best path. And if we mess up, oh, don't worry, the market will magically fix it for us. But as it turns out, that's just not how our brains work at all. So if we're not these perfectly rational robots, what are we? Well, that brings us to a much more accurate and frankly, more interesting idea from researcher Dan Ariely. He calls it predictable irrationality, and it perfectly explains why our brains are wired to make the same kinds of mistakes again and again. Now, the key word here is predictable. This isn't about us being random or chaotic. It's the opposite. Our irrational behavior is systematic. It's a pattern. We all tend to mess up in the same ways, over and over, all because of how our brains are fundamentally built. Ariely's research gives us this perfect example. Imagine a totally honest person, someone who would never, ever dream of stealing $500 in cash from a register. But that same person might feel perfectly fine fudging an insurance claim, saying their stolen TV was a 32-inch instead of a 27-inch, a difference of about $500. Why? It's all because being just one step removed from cold, hard cash makes it way easier for our brains to rationalize the lie. And that, right there, that little mental loophole, it's the crack in the armor. It allows even really good moral people to sidestep their own ethics without even realizing it. And it's this exact vulnerability, our ability to fool ourselves, that opens the door for other people to deceive us. Okay, so we've established that we have these built-in vulnerabilities. The next big question is, how do manipulative people exploit them? This is where we need to look at the work of security expert Gavin Becker and what you could call the Predator's Playbook. And right here is one of the single most important lessons you will ever learn. We have to understand that niceness is not the same thing as goodness. We're all taught to think, oh, they're so nice, they must be a good person. But for a predator, niceness isn't a part of their personality. It's a tool. It's a conscious strategy they use to get you to lower your guard and trust them when they haven't earned it. And this playbook has some very specific moves. There's force teaming, when a stranger uses words like we to create a fake bond out of thin air. There's charm and niceness, which we just covered. Overloading you with too many details to make a lie seem real. Typecasting, where they'll hit you with a slight insult so you feel like you have to prove them wrong. Of course, there's discounting no, just flat out ignoring your rejection. And maybe the most powerful red flag of all, the unsolicited promise. Okay, let's zoom in on this one for a second, because it is an absolute game changer. When someone makes you a promise you didn't ask for, your alarm bells should be screaming. Why? Think about it. The only reason a person makes a promise is because they can tell you're not convinced. They can see your doubt. Your intuition is firing and they're trying to shut it down with empty words. And this isn't some abstract theory. This is terrifyingly real. In a true story from Becker's book, a woman named Kelly felt hesitant about letting a stranger carry her groceries into her apartment. And those were his exact words to get her to drop her defenses. I promise. That unsolicited promise was the key that unlocked her front door. All right, I know that sounds pretty bleak. We're wired to be irrational, and manipulators know exactly how to use that against us. But here's the flip side, and it's some seriously good news. You already have one of the most sophisticated, high-tech defense systems on the entire planet. Becker calls this system the gift of fear. He argues that real fear isn't a weakness. It's not something to be embarrassed about or pushed away. It is a brilliant, powerful, intelligent survival signal. It is a gift, and it's meant to be opened. You know, you can think about it this way. You are the product of millions of years of nonstop research and development. Evolution has invested way too much in you to just leave you defenseless. You have this brilliant internal guardian, your intuition, and it is your birthright. And this guardian doesn't just have one volume setting. It has a whole language, a whole spectrum of signals. It can be a quiet whisper of curiosity, a little hunch, a gut feeling, or doubt. And it can ramp all the way up to suspicion, apprehension, and finally, true, undeniable fear. All of these feelings, they're not noise. They are data. They are messengers trying to tell you something important. And listening to that data is exactly what saved Kelly's life. After the attack was over, her assailant got dressed and promised he would leave. But then, he did one tiny thing. He walked over and closed the bedroom window. Her logical brain might have just dismissed it, but her intuition knew. Why would you close a window if you're about to leave? You'd only do that to muffle sound. That tiny, seemingly insignificant detail was the signal, the gift of fear, giving her the jolt of energy she needed to fight and escape.
So the big question becomes, if we all have this incredible life-saving system built right in, how do we get better at actually using it? How do we reclaim this powerful skill that, let's be honest, society has taught most of us to ignore?
This comparison just lays it all out there. Think about it. No deer in the forest hears a twig snap and stands there thinking, oh, it's probably nothing. I don't want to be rude. No, it bolts. We are the only species on Earth that feels a flash of fear and then spends time and energy trying to talk ourselves out of it. We feel doubt and we call ourselves paranoid when we should be calling ourselves perceptive. And maybe the most practical thing you can do is learn to tell the difference between useless worry and useful fear. They are not the same thing. Worry is anxiety. It's your imagination spinning out of control about things that could happen, and it just drains your energy. Real fear, on the other hand, is a survival signal. It's a direct response to something that is happening right here, right now, in your presence. And it doesn't drain your energy. It's designed to give you a surge of it so you can act. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. You are equipped with a brilliant, powerful internal guardian that is working around the clock to keep you safe. Your intuition is always talking to you. The only question is, are you ready to start listening?